Were always a band for me that I was like, how is this not massive?
They're the most insane band I've ever seen on stage.
That sort of energetic live show and that bouquet of songs, there was nothing to stop them.
Playing in the chalk wheel brain is the weight of the week falls away with the thought.
We were dreaming big. We were dreaming real big.
We wanted to share our music. We wanted to be part of the community.
We really kind of wanted to tear down that barrier.
The matches were on a strong upward trajectory for a long time, on the cusp of breaking big.
So it's kind of like, how did they not blow up? What was the match's downfall?
We've been on the road like pretty much nonstop since like 2003 or something like that.
Between 2004 and 2006, a huge segment of the population stopped buying music.
We basically just had to continuously tour.
To admit this thing I've been working on for 10 years, I don't think this is it. That's really freaking scary.
And I mean, I get it. We didn't really, I don't get it. I don't fucking know.
The love that they showed each other and the fans, it touched a lot of people's lives.
There's no level that means you made it. Any artist that gets to create something that changes anyone's life has made it.
Hey, Adam.
Hi, Erin. Nice
How you doing? I'm just texting. Oh, Chelsea just got in. She was having some issues loading the link.
Oh. Well,
how you doing?
everybody seems to figure it out. Good. How are you?
Yeah. Good. It's Monday, extra coffee.
Right. All right. Hi there. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Sorry, it looks like the link in the email was broken.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. How'd you get it?
Oh, good.
How'd you end up getting it?
Well, I copy and pasted it the first time, but I think I did a copying whatever link was hyperlinked. So I copied the link instead of like copying the text of the link.
Right. Okay.
So
I
was like,
well, I'm glad you all figured it out. I apologize.
yeah, we're here. No, sorry for the delay.
Not at all. 3 minutes does not a delay make.
We weren't trying to be divas. We're just gonna show up late.
Not yet, it'll be.
Let's be 4 minutes late. No, that's really abusing me.
Yeah.
Back in the day, though, when I went to concerts as a kid, a young guy, whatever, and you'd go to some, major band or something in an arena, and you would wait, like the show's supposed to start at 8:00 or what have you. You'd wait like an hour. Like they just make you wait an hour. No reason other than that's what rock and rollers are supposed to do. It's just
like get to the bar.
I don't know, but like I remember going to like a Pink Floyd show or something. I was very young, and of course, by the time they showed up, I was probably out of my mind. But but anyway, and you just like they have you wait an hour for these shows. But now they can't do that because like everything is so corporatized.
Yeah, so tight schedule wise.
Forget it. That they get you out. They get them in and out exactly.
Live Nation is just sitting in the corners watching, threatening.
Yeah. Well, also too, like
sure
a lot of.
runs.
I know a lot of venues now, at least if you're in the city, you end up having like a much stricter curfew. So then it's like try and get bands in and out a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And on time.
For sure.
Or like in San Francisco, if you have your union crew, it's like this show's done when it's done. You're not going over.
Let me introduce everybody. And also, is everybody basically on the west, like Pacific Northwest or San Francisco area, Bay Area?
San Francisco Bay Area.
Right. I mean, the matches is out of Oakland, right? So there's a connection here. We have we'll start with Justin San Souci. Is that how you pronounce?
Yes, that's
who's
me.
the original bassist from the bassist from the matches. You also do their art.
I've done some art for the matches. It's been me and Sean and trading off with some other people.
Okay, and then Chelsea Krister.
Yep.
Or is it
me.
Krister or Krister?
Krister. You got it right the first time.
Excellent. Yeah. Or is it Christer? No, I'll just say.
Oh, I get that one a lot too.
Of course. That's what I was kind of riffing on. All right. And you are the director of Bleeding Audio, the documentary about the matches. And then we also have Erin Persley. I'm sure you get Persley all the time.
All the time.
All the time. So now that I planted that seed in many more people's minds.
Exactly. Elvis is all. Mm-hmm.
Well, I have one too many consonants in my spelling. SCH. People just can't handle that, or historically. So I always thought, well, if I just took the C out of my name, my last name, nobody would have a problem. But I just never bothered. But it's just something about it's got slightly ethnic spelling. Forget it. Even in New York, people had a problem with it.
Yeah, that's like my last name.
Right, of course.
Should be spaced, and then it should be SANS space SOUCI. Yeah, it's supposed to be without care or carefree.
Oh wow!
But having the two S's next to each other in the middle, I guess used to just confuse people. So I think like 2 generations ago, my family just dropped one of the S's and simplified it.
Without carefree, what a name!
Right?
It's terrific.
I think it's accurate.
Must be nice to be you. Well, it's nice to meet you all. We're here because Chelsea's documentary, as I mentioned, Bleeding Audio, which is about the origin story and tumultuous journey of the band, the matches. Pop punk, post, what would you call it? Post punk, power pop,
weird art punk.
all of the above.
Rock, yeah.
And I'm not going to compare it to other bands because I always don't like that when people do that because it's just not fair. But anyway, we'll play some of the music coming in or out of the. We'll play. We'll definitely show. Is there a trailer? I forget. There is, right? So
we have a trailer.
I'll play the trailer coming into the segment, so people probably might even recognize some of the music, even if you're not of a certain age.
Very specific demographic.
But congratulations, Slamdance! What a terrific terrific festival, film festival too. And there's only a handful of documentaries, right? In this particular season, they scaled back, I assume, because of the pandemic and everything else, and probably the complete, utter smaller pool that keeps getting smaller of films. Erin, were you instrumental, no pun intended, in getting the documentary at Slamdance as a producer on the project, or?
I guess you should probably ask Chelsea how she feels about that. But yeah, I mean, I think we knew that Slamdance would be a great home for the film, and so we were really pushing for it, seeing how it could fit. I mean, I think even the theme that they're doing now with Greenlight Yourself is so sort of pertinent, but we really love the sort of DIY creative spirit of Slamdance. And so if there's, we definitely were pushing it along, talking to programmers, seeing how we can, sort of fit into this year's lineup. And we were so happy when it worked out.
Yeah, Slamdance has always been a festival that I've greatly admired for a long time. And it just felt like it just has the same spirit that we do, which is just this. And can I swear? Is that okay? Because I'm going to curse. Okay. I was just like, fuck you. I want to be a filmmaker. It's like, that's like kind of the vibe where it's just like, I'm going to make this no matter what. And so like Erin said, this like Greenlight Yourself, like it felt so just in line with what Bleeding Audio is it took a lot of blood, sweat, and DIY tears to get it put together. And so Slamdance just feels like the perfect home for us.
And let's see. So it's actually in your connection. You have Slamdance is in Utah, but you grew up in Colorado. Is that right, Chelsea?
I did. I grew up in Colorado.
How far from Park City were you?
I mean, pretty far. Like Colorado's pretty far away.
Okay.
But the whole the like beautiful winter mountain spirit is something that I love about Park City. I actually have volunteered for Sundance for many years, and it was a great excuse to be in Park City during the time when both festivals take place. So I've seen quite a few Slamdance films in that beautiful hotel at the top of Maine in my day, and I just had such a love of just the energy and spirit around Park City and Main Street during both of those festivals.
Justin, what's your feeling about rock docs, to use just a shorthand term, but documentaries? There's certainly a long history, right? Going all the way back from the beginning of documentaries. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean, I
like.
Oh, you can.
Nanak of the North. I think she was a mandolin player. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I enjoyed them. I've seen a fair amount of them. So I've definitely watched a lot of rock docs in my time. So it's kind of fun. It's like, you get to see a bit more behind the scenes, or what makes a band tick, or like more of the actual like human interaction of the people involved with the band. I think sometimes a lot of the stories that you see in rock docs are like, oh, we got together as a band, and then boy, we're really famous, and now it's hard. And so I think a lot of the rock docs kind of miss the point of trying to get from like the garage to the stage, which can be, the most difficult step, I think.
Yeah. Well, this was really, this is like one of those strange cases where you have this enormously successful grassroots band. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it before, and I've seen a lot of documentaries about bands, and there are certainly other bands that have had, had successful grassroots, but yours it was so explosive and so I don't know, your fans were so incredibly dedicated, and so incredibly, it was, as you show in the film, a real community like was around there. Like people would have reunions and see each other, and it was and it was bigger than just going to see a band. So for a lot of people, and then on the industry side, it was such a battle. It was such a series of conflicts and of challenges just to get a deal, and those two things kind of just can't understand what's the problem. That you have I mean, you can see, look at our shows, look what we've created.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this transcribe to a record deal?
Yeah. So they definitely kind of happen in two different worlds, and so you definitely spend a lot of time making building your fan base and building a community. And then once you get enough attention, then you start getting record label attention. And at the time, when we first started getting record label attention, it was really exciting, and we're, getting attention of some of like the top people in the music industry. So it did look like it was working out. We made some creative decisions at that time, and I don't, whether they were the right ones or the wrong ones. They sent us on the path that we were, and luckily, if you mess up your business side of your decisions, it doesn't necessarily mean you mess up your fan base side of your band. So we kind of messed up our business, but we held on to our community fan base.
Yeah, and to like add to that a little bit in terms of what we chose to tell in the film, I feel like every rock doc I've ever seen is like, look at the glamour, look at the, look at rock and roll, look at all this stuff that's going on. Isn't it great? And it is great. It's wonderful to like have this kind of a job where you
right,
get
to
to
see the
create
guys
art and echo.
right. I
and-
mean, you see after the show the connection between the guys and their fans outside hanging out. I mean, it looked like bliss. Everybody's so blissed out.
Yeah. But it's also like it's really hard to be in a band, and the matches, them in particular, you know, their career was in parallel to the music industry having this massive shift and collapse. And so while everyone around them was, you know, applying an old model to a changing industry to their band, like that dissonance definitely caused, you know, a lot of issues in how their business was handled. And to me, it was really important with this film to, you know, honor the matches and their career and their work ethic and the community that they built. But it was also equally important to me to not pull the look at how great being a rock star is facade. You know, like it was really important for people to walk away from this film for me to go, whoa, there's a lot more going on behind the curtain than I realized, and to hopefully, you know, walk away with a different consciousness of, you know, that direct relationship between supporting your artists and them sticking around, you know?
Right. Yeah, I was reminded of the great, to quote a quote from the great Marty DeBurgi, who says, "You will get to see the sights, the sounds, the smells," because you definitely get a sense of traveling in that van. I did, you know, I could smell the
I've been told that it's a horrific thing to experience.
Yeah, when you have 6 people living in a van for months on end, it definitely has its own aroma.
And also you could identify people, like it was very funny moments when you guys were talking about that. Erin, did you have anything to do with the shaping, like Chelsea, you were talking about really showing the ups and the all the sides of what it is to be a struggling journey band, whatever you want to call a band like the Matches. Instead of showing the industry doc, you know, doesn't go there. It just keeps its sort of eyes on the band I think the entire time. But how much in terms of what the story and the message that you're trying to tell, because you could choose a number of them, I suppose.
Yeah, documentaries are like it's like choosing the path you're going to take, and that's part of the process. I mean, I think when I came on the project about little over 3 years ago, Chelsea was like midway through at that point. And we thought we were at the beginning of post, or maybe the end of production, sort of moving into post, and we looked at a rough assembly. And what really drew me to the project is I hadn't heard of the Matches before. I was fresh eyes, you know, and I really watched the film in its early form, and I really captivated by the story. And that's what I find so important about the film and what I really wanted to bring to the process when we were in post. Because as you said, there's many different ways you can take the film, right? So really you're constantly making choices, right? Is it this shot or this shot? Is it this line of dialogue or that line? And really what it came back to is not only making a film that the Matches fans could love, but making a film that anyone could enjoy, really having that universal story. And so I think that's one of the things that I brought to the production or post-production process, is really keep on engaging, sort of like, because, you know, Chelsea's in it, you know, and you can talk about that. But when you're in that process, you sort of need moments where you can sort of pull yourself out and sort of see if it works and then bring yourself back in. So I thought that was really important to have a sort of an outside sort of space and source to sort of help with that process. But I mean, post is a slog. It's, you know, editing it all together and figuring out what's going to work. You know, we made like 7 different versions of the same scene, and then, you know, it's hard. But I think that's what's so great about filmmaking, is really figuring out how that process can work and really how you can tell your story in a really compelling way. And that's what really brought me in the first place to Bleeding Audio.
Yeah, and Erin was a great barometer for if a scene was too inside baseball or not. You know, like we wanted to make sure that we had that Matches flair and that flavor, and you got a sense of the band, but we also didn't want to be inaccessible to someone who might not be a fan. And so there were a few things that I know ended up being the cutting room floor, just because it was like, oh, that feels a little bit too much like you had to be there. And while, of course, we want to give that sense to fans, we didn't want to alienate people who weren't fans.
Because you're making new fans with the film.
Hopefully so. I would think so. I think you will, because for me, I worked in the music industry during this period, I think, and or some of it, and I knew of the matches, but I didn't know their music. But watching the film, I was like, man, these guys are great musicians, really good musicians, so tight and so good. I mean, you know, I'm kind of tipping into old age here, a little bit older, but I still can appreciate, you know, just that how much work went into that, and you get that message with the documentary, you know, from all that archive.
Aw, thank you. I'm glad to hear it. It's always fun when people can revisit the match's catalog after the film.
Well, it's very athletic band, especially back in the early days when they were jumping. I mean, they were kind of, you know, I mean, they were
Ought to be young again.
Very physical band, very physical. But I mean, also just good musicians, really good musicians. And but you also have to work as one entity, right? Right, Justin?
Yeah. I mean, it's really is all about playing together. I was talking to one of my friends recently, and we're just laughing about like you know, like, doesn't matter like how good your band is, like if you have like a shitty drummer, you're gonna have a shitty band. And like we were just kind of joking about like, you know, you could have, you know, just, I don't know, it's really about a balance across the whole spectrum, and making sure that like everybody kind of brings something to the band, because that's I feel like what's so unique against so many different bands is like it's that combination of people and their personalities and how they play and trying to fit it together. And there's definitely been times like, you know, go and jam with some other people and be like, oh, just this is not working, we just aren't feeling this. And then, you know, you like I play with the matches, and it's like, oh man, like it just, everything just fits together so easily. It's just, you know, you just have this you know, I guess history, like it's like just this you know, like we all learned to play our instruments together, so it's like we all kind of can, like I can tell like where somebody's going to take something, or you know, like, oh, okay, Matt's going to pull back on this beat, so we're going to like, you know, so I don't know, it's just you kind of start getting a feel for everybody.
It's an organic chemistry thing, right?
Yeah,
you can't really articulate it always, even, I mean, it's there or it's not, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
When was the last time you guys played together, by the way? Just to...
It would have been Chelsea knows.
Yeah,
she looks like
I mean,
she has
honestly,
the answer.
it was like it was our world premiere. So technically,
right,
we and this is now funny. We had a world premiere on March 7th, 2020, which was, you know, just the precipice of the end of the world, probably like the last real weekend any of us have had. And we had a screening at the CineQuest Film and Creativity Festival in San Jose, and we had a secret show at a bar just around the corner where the matches played. And it was one of those nights where the festival was canceled like the morning of our screening, but they were keeping all the weekend screenings. And so we like, you know, we're in this sweaty bar with like 100 Matches fans just like cluttered around this like faux stage, and they played just, you know, like a 20-minute set. But it was that thing that was like, is this going to be a super spreader event? What's happening? We don't know what's going on.
That term hadn't been invented yet.
I know. Yeah. And so it was a really funny moment where it just felt like, and I've kind of joked about this before, where it just felt like the quartet on the Titanic, where we're just like, okay, one last go, you guys, before we all sink. But before that, I think you guys played in 2018 was the last one. They did a reunion tour for Abandon Hope. That was really fun and successful too. But otherwise it was that you know, pre-show. Oh yeah, the posters are behind Justin.
Sure. Yeah, 2018.
They're just what was available, what did you know, well, I mean, maybe you could tell a short version of how you came to decide to do this? I'm assuming that's the question everybody's going to ask. But like, why this band? This is your first feature documentary that you've directed?
Yeah, this is my first feature. And I mean, honestly,
And then,
oh, go
and then
ahead.
what was available in terms of the footage and content? Like, how did you decide? Because this is it is essentially looking back, although it works right up to in a way, the last moment, and that there's a reunion, etc. But I don't think that's is that a spoiler? Maybe it is a spoiler.
I mean, maybe a little, but maybe not. It feels
I've
pretty
already spoiled
abundantly
that with
clear.
those posters in the background, but we know
Yeah.
the guys have remained.
Don't look.
We'll just blur them out. But no, so I mean, honestly, like I've been friends with these guys for a long time. Like I've done a little bit of video work for them over the years. I've always been a big fan of their music and them as humans. They're such good people. And so when they let me know that the reunions were coming up, I was going to support them in any way I could. But I also I started learning more about their history, and it was so compelling to me to see this hardworking band who I think should have been huge, who wasn't huge. And that's like a very common story. I mean, that's no surprise to anyone. But to me, what was really interesting were the parallels between how the industry was changing and how, and how their career kind of mapped to that same, like that line graph going down. But there were just so many elements of what I thought was a great redemption story, a great story about community, and just a great story about how music can still bring people together in a digital age, but how if we want music to stick around in a digital age, we need to be more conscious consumers. So it took a lot of convincing of the guys to make them, think that they were worthy of a feature-length film, because as indicated in the film itself, they're incredibly humble humans. They were just like, okay, if that's really how you want to spend your time, you can make a feature about us, but good luck. And when it comes to like archives, I think we were just really fortunate because the guys, opened up their old cardboard boxes of photos and old hard drives of photos. I mean, honestly, most of the photos were like disposable camera things that we had to scan. But the biggest documentary filmmaker's dream was iMusicast and their archive of live show recordings. So Brian Matheson at Skyline Studios, which was previously part of iMusicast, he opened up his entire archive to us. And I mean, iMusicast was already an enigma in and of itself. I mean, the fact that there was a live streaming music venue in 1999, that the matches were a part of starting in like 2001. I mean, I got to see some very rough shows to the point where my sound mix, our music mixer on the film specifically requested I use shows post them discovering Playing to a Click. But like, it was just an incredible archive of content. And I'm so grateful to Brian and our amazing archivists. I think it was Alex and Gabe who helped transfer all those DV tapes for us to use. So it was really great. And I feel super fortunate to have that content. I just have to, not think about the other stuff that could have been, on tape somewhere else. Like George Lucas's thing.
Yeah. Well, and Playing to a Click, you mentioned, is literally listening to a click, like almost like a metronomic, if that's a word, click track.
Yeah, that keeps them in time.
Back sync. Yeah, keeps them in time. Everybody in time.
Yeah. No offense, Justin, but those early shows were unusable.
Or you get you're young and you're excited and you just keep playing everything. Each song just keeps getting faster and faster and faster and faster.
As do the heartbeats of the fans in the audience.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's not
a coincidence.
Yeah. Maybe it was the right way to play a live show, but we're trying to figure out ways to sound better. So that's what we ended up doing. trying to get all on the same beat.
Another thing though that comes through, and I think most people who have any knowledge of the film industry know that, I guess it's a door that opens into a whole other world, getting getting a record deal at a major label. But even a lot of bands that get those deals are going to debt, right? So we know that it's what you do and the wise choices you can make. It offers a different opportunities, but probably working for the music and label is not going to be the thing that actually makes you get out of that debt.
Yeah.
For most bands.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's, you know, once we started talking to major labels, we also started talking to like a lot of bands and heard a lot of horror stories as far as, you know, working with major labels, like from bands that, you know, spent 6 months making a record and then having that record shelved, and then basically they're still under contract, and then, you know, it's like 3 years and they can't release anything, and like the record label still owns like the band, and, you know, trying to like either get out of that. We actually had a friend's band that what they did was they just broke up and then reformed under a new name, but they, you know, nothing ever was quite the same after that. Or
can I ask you a question? If you make that album, that hypothetical album that you mentioned just now, that never gets distributed, that sits, it's, you know, it's just, they pay, the record label may have paid you for that, and now you have to pay them back for that, or even if it never comes out?
Yeah, so as far as usually the record label, I mean, the record contract goes, is the band would still be on the hook for paying back the cost of making that record. So the label just fronts the money.
Yeah.
So what's, I don't know, you spend, you know, 200 grand making the record, and then you're now owe the record company 200 grand, and so you have to, you basically have to pay that back before you make any money from the record label. I mean, it's not like, you know, if the band breaks up, it's not individually, you don't owe the record company money, but, you know, depending on the contract you sign, it could be like, if you ever release music, you have to, you know, they get first swipe at it, you know?
Yeah.
So it can get pretty messy.
Sounds like.
So I don't know. Yeah. So we actually, we got kind of scared away from major labels a bit at the time. And part of the reasons we ended up going with the record label we went with Epitaph, was the you know, they still had, I think they're still like the biggest independent record label. And they offered us, you know, good budgets, but they also offered us like creative control, which is you end up kind of trading. You either get the money from the big label and you lose creative control, or you keep creative control, but you don't get as much money. So we kind of, we're hoping for the creative, we bet on the creative control.
I'd say that part paid off.
As we said, this documentary, Bleeding Audio, will be at Slamdance, which is coming right up, actually. I think it starts this weekend, right? Runs through, I should have my dates in front of me, but...
Yeah, Slamdance actually starts this Friday, February 12th, and it ends on
25th?
February 25th, yes.
Yeah. It's hard to keep track of what day it is, but starts Friday. That's good. And how is it working? It's a virtual festival for your film, or is it available for once? Do you know, Erin? Maybe like, or do you have a badge? Do you buy a block of shows or films, and then, or can you pay per review?
Yeah, well, Slamdance was doing an amazing thing. So prior to New Year's, so 2020, you could get a pass for free, and that was a pass that you could access all the films. And then now in 2021, you can buy a pass for $10, which I think is a huge steal. So for $10, you can see as many movies,
right,
shorts, and as well as the features for Slamdance. And that's really why we love the festival so much, is that they really do want to make it accessible to as many people, and they understand that 2021, you know, is still that year where people are still, you know, we're still recovering from everything, mentally, financially.
And I saw a couple of also narratives, and they were both foreign films, which again isn't very surprising. We'll probably be dipping in the next few years a lot more into festivals that might have typically more domestic films, may be doing more international just because of necessity. But the films I saw were really, really good. Depressing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great lineup. I think they have a good mix, right? There's a lot of hopeful films that are uplifting mixed with some of the things that are happening. And I like their doc, the doc features. I believe there's at least 2 international, but there's a couple that I think are really great that are really exposing stories that I think need to be told, but doing it in a way where, we want to watch. Yeah, we're consumers of content at all times right now, so I think it's great that they're really thinking that through.
And this is the only music doc. So
Yeah.
if you're a fan of music docs and you want to take advantage of a film festival, this is the right one. Let's go around. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I'll start. Music doc, your favorite, do you have a favorite music doc? Or you can even have a couple of runners up if you have. I haven't even thought of them myself, but I know, and I know this. Have any of you not seen Anvil, the story of Anvil?
Oh, I've seen Anvil, the story of Anvil. I think
that remains still to this day. I've watched it. I have actually a copy because I was for a while doing this programming a documentary called a series called Docularius, which were funny documentaries. And even though it's kind of a serious documentary about these musicians, it's Canadian musicians, it's also does work on a meta Spinal Tap level.
Totally, it's the real life Spinal Tap.
But there's a love story in that film between the ironically named Rob Reiner. No connection to Spinal Tap. It's a different Rob Reiner. But he's like the bass player or the drum. I can't remember now. Maybe he's the guitar player. And then the lead singer and just their love, and what it's also a very heartbreaking story about another band that in some ways has some similar experiences to the matches in terms of just getting close and having an incredible following, being so dedicated and committed. But it's the brotherhood that really at the end of the day holds them together, and it's there's an amazing beautiful scene in that documentary when they're I forget where they traveled. Do you remember, Chelsea, where they go to record their comeback? They're in their 50s or 40s or 50s, and they decide they're going to do a comeback, and I think they fly to maybe Wales, or I don't remember where, but it's like some remote location, and of course they get into a fight and an explosive, but then it's there's a moment in that there which is so touching. It's all sometimes it takes as a moment.
Yeah.
But that's an example for me of one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh, I'll let Justin go.
He
might steal mine though.
Yeah, right.
It's okay. Go ahead, Justin. I have a few queued up.
Cool. Well, the one that I've probably told more people to watch than any other one is the Muscle Shoals documentary, and I really enjoyed that because it doesn't focus on just one band. It kind of covers its own. Yeah, it's like a time. It's like an era, and there's just so many influential people of music that kind of came through that studio and were part of that scene, and a lot of them before they were even like big stars, they that's where they got their start. And also too, like a big focus of the film in the studio is they talk about like Big Star, and so I'm a big Star fan. So
September Girls.
Yeah.
Like even like the Stone, like bands would then, like even big bands would then go to Muscle Shoals, right, to capture right that magic or whatever. Yeah, it's a great example. All right, Erin, we're
steal mine.
Chelsea, you're gonna you have a
I am
I say Erin, but we'll go to Chelsea. So
I'm going to give Erin a minute because I know that I'm the big music documentary fan out of the two of us, and I could list several, but I do have to be honest. Like while I was making Bleeding Audio, it got to a point where I had to stop watching music documentaries because they just became either too influential, and I started having all these other ideas, or it was just like, ugh. I'm already making one. Do I have to watch another one? But one of my favorite music docs that I've seen in recent years is called Mistaken for Strangers. and it's a doc about the National, but it's not about the National. It's about like the relationship between the lead singer of the National and his brother who makes the documentary.
Oh yeah, I think I did see that one.
It's super meta and like funny
brother-
and emotional, but like just I don't know. There's just something about the relationships we have with our siblings who are successful and those who
Right.
perceive themselves as not successful that was really profound about the doc.
Yeah.
That spoke to me. And then I'm just gonna say also, I mean, like obviously, you know, there's so many great classic docs, but to think in recent years, like Searching for Sugar Man was definitely a doc that inspired me narratively for Bleeding Audio. Was just, and without spoiling Searching for Sugar Man, just the way that doc is structured and how it tells the story of this artist was something that I definitely used as a map for how I wanted to tell Bleeding Audio.
Wow, that's a great example of a documentary. And I can even say, because this will impress everybody, Malik Benjalul is the director of that documentary. Who committed suicide, by the way.
I know.
Sadly, a few
It's so
years ago.
sad. I saw
Very
that
sad.
news and I was just heartbroken.
It's very heartbreaking. He was such a lovely person. You know, I got to talk to him, and also Rodriguez I got to talk to when it came to Tribeca. But that's a great example. Both of those.
Great doc. Yeah.
Both of
And then
those.
Aaron?
Oh, I would say I think Searching for Sugar Man's a great, that's a great example. I think it's interesting because I don't tend to watch a lot of music docs. So I look for films that I really are more character driven, but I really like 20 Feet from Stardom, talking about backup singers. I thought that one was a really, I'm always engaged. Yeah, I'm always engaged with like sort of this idea of sort of invisibility or bringing, you know, certain people to light, and sort of I love the idea of sort of the backup coming forward to be in the spotlight. But yeah, and I was thinking of stuff I've watched when I was a kid. I remember my dad did put on like The Last Waltz. I remember watching that when I was younger. He was a huge fan of.
That is maybe one of the uncles, because you know the granddaddy you think of maybe is Don't Look Back or whatever. But
yeah, well, that's a great example too. Sure.
But the moment I remember for 20 Feet, again, I always go for those emotional moments that the filmmaker must be so feel so lucky to capture. So I mean, you know, Sugar Man that's the entire film. It's this incredible journey. But on 20 Feet, it's I think Mick Jagger who tears up listening to when they play back the vocals for the backup singer. I forget her name now, Mary maybe, or anyway, she's sing, and he I think he gets all very emotional listening to it, and they got that moment, which I thought was fantastic. Is there a moment in Bleeding Audio which kind of stands out for you, either one, anybody in here that maybe you're the proudest of or means the most to you? A moment in Bleeding Audio?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I haven't been asked that one yet.
But all the others.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of moments in the film that mean a lot to me, and I think for me, like a moment that still sticks out to me as being an emotional one was a product of the collaboration I had with everyone on the team, and specifically with my editor Luke. In the third act, towards the end of the film, without having any spoilers really, there was a moment that I really wanted to hit emotionally, and we were just kind of struggling, like, oh, what do we show here? How do we really give this quote weight, which is actually from Justin, which the line says something like just being on stage with all those people again felt like being home again, which is like a very powerful statement. And so Luke and I were just slinging ideas back and forth, and he said, hey, I'm trying something, let me know what you think. And he sent me that scene, and it had it was just like he did a montage of like the match's history of like all these key archival moments leading up to present day. And it just like, I just burst out crying. I was just like, oh my God, this is exactly what this scene needed, was just like this retrospective showing like the weight of that comment from Justin, who arguably was the one that was most displaced from being connected to the band, to have him come back and be just as connected and to show that legacy with all that archival. I love that moment in the film so much because it was, again, like a product of our collaboration, and it just, to me, gave the weight of the story so just so powerfully. So it meant a lot to me. So maybe that's fine.
Yeah, I think the ending, I remember we were really struggling with the ending for a while. We had a couple different versions, we went back and forth. And I remember that at the point that I was like, oh, we hit it, was when I watched the ending and I started to cry. And I think it was more because it was, and I quote me if I'm wrong, Chelsea, I think it was Stephen Wade's quote where he says, redefining success, sort of what maybe your first try wasn't your best, but then sort of redefines what it means to be successful. Maybe I'm getting it paraphrasing a bit, but I think that really hit me because part of what I find so inspiring about the film is that it's relatable to all artists, right? It's all this idea of how to be sustainable. How can you, I mean, even as filmmakers, how can we make this career a sustainable career? And you sometimes sort of feel like the failure is easier than the success. And so that sort of rang true for me. And I remember I got emotional. I texted Chelsea when I watched the cut and I was like, we got it. It's good. It hit me. We're in it. So that was and I think because we were really trying to think through what we wanted audiences to walk away with. So that really, I think, hit home to me pretty hard. Justin, do you have a thought?
Was there any moment in particular maybe that was resonated for you in watching the final film?
I mean, I think the whole film resonated pretty hard with me.
Must be a very different experience for you.
It was definitely like the first time I kind of saw a cut. It was definitely like really emotional. It was almost like, okay, I gotta take a break here, and I know, like kind of reliving that and being part of like seeing all that, like seeing your life like laid out in front of you is like can kind of be hard to digest a bit. And then, you see it a couple of times and then you kind of start accepting it and like working through it and processing. But I guess like I knew, I knew the overarching story pretty well. But for me, it was really fun to see like the other perspectives and like what other people were saying and their ideas, like and it was also, there's something validating by having like Nick Hexum and Mark Hoppus participating in the film, and like I don't know, it's just you kind of like once you kind of move, like once you kind of like move into your adult life and you're not really doing the day-to-day with the band anymore, you kind of feel like everybody kind of forgets you. And so to have these people that were so important in my life like participate in making this film and making it a success was like, that was really touching and meant a lot.
Well, again, the name of the documentary is called Bleeding Audio. It's directed by Chelsea Christer, produced by Erin Persley in part. Maybe I know Chelsea, you co-produced that or were one of the producers. And stars a very carefree Justin San Souci, along with his bandmates. Thank you all. I wish you much luck with it. Again, people can go to slamdance.com and I think it's .com. And get a $10. You can see this film and others. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope to run into you guys again on this road that we're all.
Yeah, we're all traversing. Yeah, we're kind of finding our way in the dark.
Very much so.
Yeah. One Zoom at a time.
Yeah. Thanks for making the time to do this, and it was fun to meet everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Adam. Thank you.
Yeah,
great meeting you and talking with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.